What's going on, guys? We are coming to you back with another stream. This time, I'm going to be going back to the tabletop simulator here. Tabletop simulator, I think, does provide a little bit of a better experience in terms of legibility and so on relative to webcam. And this time, we are going to have some Boltyn classic constructed gameplay. Probably just going to show a game or two this time. Not a super long stream, but we're going to lead off here. This is an event from the Fab Foundry Online Playtest League. I've been playing a lot of Boltyn in Classic Constructed during that league, just kind of trying to figure out that hero and get some more experience with him. Now, Boltyn's an interesting character. He's kind of in between an aggressive deck and a setup deck. And there's two different versions of Boltyn that have been popular. The first one is Raydn Boltyn, and the second one is Sabers Boltyn. So this game is actually going to be interesting because I am playing Raydn Boltyn, and my opponent is playing Sabers Boltyn. So it's a Boltyn mirror, but it's between the two different styles of Boltyn deck. So this should be an interesting video for those who want to learn more about Boltyn. And I'll probably follow this up with we'll see how it goes. We'll see what else is going on. But I may well follow this up with another game also from this league. But here's just to start off. So I'm going first. In general, going first is going to be advantageous. I believe I won the roll-off here. You do want to go first when it's Boltyn against Boltyn. And let's see how this goes. One other thing to note is that we're running different equipment, so we both have the Arcanite Skullcap and Snapdragon Scalers, but my opponent is running the Courage of Bladehold and Gallantry Gold, whereas I have Fyendal Spring Tunic and Brave Forge Bracers, in addition to the Skullcap and the Scalers there. And so Gallantry Gold has worse armor than the Brave Forge Bracers, and its ability can only be used once. However, it's very strong for the Boltyn Saber combo. And then Courage Bladehold has better armor than Tunic and and is actually an essential card for the combo. The Saber combo deck basically just doesn't work if you don't have Courage of Bladehold. Conceivably, you could do like some weird version of it where you play a bunch of energy potions or something, but I think Courage of Bladehold is crucial for it because the benefit you get from Courage of Bladehold does last for the entire turn, and doing that, it really does make a difference. Okay, so we're going to see I started off my turn playing an Express Lightning, which is a basic charge attack. My opponent comes in with an Engulfing Light. So Engulfing Light here, it's one of the basic zero-cost charge attacks. So of the zero-cost charge attacks, we have Express Lightning, Engulfing Light, and Bolt of Courage. So that Engulfing Light was going to go into Soul on hit. I decided to block it with Equipment. The reason that I went for the Equipment block there is that I think that Engulfing Light is actually a card that's going to increase my opponent's Soul total. That's something that I really actually want to avoid. So I end up going for a Express Lightning. I pitch a yellow Express Lightning to play a Take Flight. I still have one energy floating. Take Flight is a bread and butter card for Boltyn. It's debatably his best card. In terms of just like normal turn cycles. Obviously, it's not like the big splashy card like via the Vanguard or Lumina Ascension, but Take Flight is a very solid core card. All it does is it costs 1, the red one is strength 4, and it's a charge card. If you've charged, it gains Go Again. So I come in for 4 Go Again, my opponent decides to eat the damage. I'm then going to swing Raydn. So Raydn's an interesting weapon. It's strength 0 base, but it costs 0 to swing it. So 0 for 0 obviously isn't a very good deal. But the big benefit of it is that if you've charged, it gets +3, which means not only that you can swing a 0 for 3, but also that it has higher strength than its base level, which allows you to use Boltyn's ability for the Go Again. So in this case, I'm going to use Boltyn's ability, banishing one of the cards that I put in Soul, in order to get that Go Again, and I'm going to use it to play a Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer is one of the strongest cards in the game, debatably the strongest card in the game, against this combo deck, because it really puts pressure on their hand and on the arsenal where they may be storing one of the key cards for their combo. So my opponent here goes for a triple block against the Command and Conquer. The reason he has to do that is because with Boltyn's ability active, if he blocks with an attack, the attack will get +1. So he has to either triple block or double block with armor. In this case, he goes for the triple block. His turn is just playing the energy potion anyway, so it's fine. However, I'm going to be able to do another Command and Conquer on this next turn. I use my Tunic to play the Take Flight. So Tunic is a great card for Boltyn because he has this sort of... He kind of wants to do these setups. So this turn is going to look very much like my previous turn, except instead of pitching a card, this time I'm going to use the Tunic. Opponent counters the Take Flight with a Sick Below. I'm then going to throw out the Raydn attack here. And so I could play the Command and Conquer here, but now my opponent's actually used the card that he had in his arsenal because it is the defense reaction. So the value of that play is going down. However, it's possible that I could, for instance, play this Bolt of Courage that I have in hand and then arsenal the Command and Conquer. So in that case, we see that +1 as a relevant factor here. My opponent does block with an attack, putting me from Strength 3 up to 4, thanks to Boltyn's ability. And then I'm going to come in with the Bolt of Courage yellow. So this is coming in for Strength 2, +1 if blocked by an attack. If it hits, I'll draw. My opponent blocks with a Razor, and I'm going to throw the Command and Conquer into Arsenal to hopefully use it on another turn. My opponent, however, he is doing a decent job here of advancing his game plan. He has taken some damage, but he's getting these potions out. Now he is a little low on charge. You do need to have a good amount of charge in order to actually execute the Saber combo. I'm looking at my options here. I could go for this Enlightened Strike. I could go for the old Via the Vanguard. There's definitely some interesting things here. I end up going for an E-Strike, sending one of these Via the Vanguards back. Now, the interesting thing about E-Strike is that I can potentially use Boltyn's ability with it to give it go again if I go for E-Strike 7. And the reason for that is that it will have higher strength than its base value. So Enlightened Strike coming in for 7. We'll see what my opponent thinks about this. Looks like it's going to be, at least I think it's for 7, I might be wrong. Yeah, so he blocks for 3, I'm going to use the card that I have in Soul there to get go again, and then he's actually going to use a Sink Below to block as well, and then I'm going to pitch the Bolt of Courage to throw out that Command and Conquer. Now I think we actually... Oh, yeah, that's right. So in this situation, I don't have the +1 for it being blocked with an attack because I haven't charged this turn. That's what's going on. So he actually does block it completely with his card for 3 and defense reaction for 4. However, Command and Conquer now coming in for 6, putting more pressure on Arsenal. And if he wants to block it, he's either going to have to use a bunch of armor, dump his hand, maybe do both depending on what he has in hand, or risk losing that Arsenal card. And if that card is something that advances his combo, I'm going to be very happy to see it gone. So we see a block for 1, and he gets hit, taking 5 damage, and he loses a Art of War, which is a little bit of an odd one, actually. At least my version of the combo deck doesn't actually run that, but it is at least potentially a strong card. My opponent is then going to use one of his energy potions to throw out a Command and Conquer of his own. My arsenal card here is a Via the Vanguard, which I really don't want to lose. One thing that I could do here is I could go for a double block and then on my turn play the energy potion. That would be a pretty solid way to set up for a future turn, but it doesn't do a lot of pressure. I could also do a double block and retain the Express Lightning and just throw that out as an attack, and it ends up looking like I'm going to go for the block there with the Express Lightning. So the question there is, what do I want to do for setup? Do I want to play the energy potion? The answer is yes. In this case, I do go for the energy potion, but I could have instead used the energy potion to charge and played the Express Lightning if I was more looking to build up my soul instead. We got someone saying Jose Holgren / Lucky is the best Boltyn Sabers player in the world, and Jimmy H best Boltyn Raydn player in the world. I don't know too much about that. There's a European player. He goes by the username Cats, and that player has gotten very strong results. I believe he's won multiple Road to Nationals events in Europe on Saber Boltyn, but it's a little difficult to compare people across metas. So I don't really know. I don't know who the best is at Boltyn. I know that I'm not the best at Boltyn. I've been trying to figure him out, but haven't really gotten the best setup yet. But I do know that he's had really good success in Europe. Actually, it's quite strange. If you go to my website, tower9.com, there is a section where I discuss there's a section under the header where I have a link to my event results spreadsheet. And if you check out that event results spreadsheet, I've actually been looking at the data there, and it's quite interesting. If you look only at European events, Boltyn is actually the strongest hero in the game if you look only at events from continental Europe. What do you think about Flock of the Featherwalkers in the deck, in Boltyn or in other decks? For Boltyn, I think it's interesting. It could be good, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not that attached to Flock of the Featherwalkers. I think there's some situations where it could be really cool, but the problem that I have with it is that I feel like it's another card that's hungry for stuff in hand, and I feel like what Boltyn already does is hungry for stuff in hand. Similarly, it can be good to play Flock of the Featherwalkers using Tunic, but Boltyn already really wants to use his Tunic on other stuff, so I'm not that confident in it, but I also haven't tested it, you know. I know there's a lot of people who have reported really good results with Flock of the Featherwalkers in Chain. Matt Rogers was doing that, and that was that's been a pretty successful strategy for some people in Road to Nationals. I think there's some other people who have kind of copied that tech. I could see it being good for Boltyn too. Quite frankly, I haven't tested it. I've still been trying out different stuff, and I'm by no means, I think, a top expert on Boltyn or whatever. This turn I'm going to go for hopefully a pretty big turn, though. I'm going to use the energy potion that I had set up in order to play Via the Vanguard, and I'm just thinking about how I want to charge. Now, Via the Vanguard is one of Boltyn's best cards. The way this card works is that you can charge any number of times. So I actually end up going for a triple charge on this Via the Vanguard, which does mean that this attack is going to be coming in at a base strength of 6, +1 if blocked by an attack. And my plan is to use Boltyn's ability to give it go again, which I do. My opponent, however, has a Soul Shield, which is going to block for 6. Soul Shield is a strong defense reaction. It costs 2, it blocks for 6, and it goes to Soul afterwards, so he's kind of using that to charge up his Soul as well as defending. However, fortunately for me, I still have some more attacks to make, so now it's going to be Raydn also for 6. The thing about Via the Vanguard that's so good is that it benefits the entire combat chain. The whole combat chain, not only V, but other cards you play, gets +X, where X is the number of times you charge. So that Raydn attack was actually coming in for 6. Then I'm going to top it off with this Valiant Thrust. It's 4 base, +3 for having charged, and then another +3 from Via the Vanguards. This is actually a strength 10 attack. And my opponent ends up taking that 10 damage, so that was a really big turn for me. That energy potion, Via the Vanguard, and multiple attacks really took a big chunk out of my opponent's health. And even with him defending relatively heavily, he's left with only 1 card in hand. So this is one of the reasons that I really like Boltyn. The way that he ends up playing is so powerful on his big turns. I don't think there's any character who can have big turns that are as big and powerful as those that Boltyn can throw out there. And it can really be interesting to see someone doing that type of damage. And not a lot of characters can do that, so it's interesting stuff. This turn I think I have 1 card in Soul, and I'm trying to think about what my options are. I do have my Tunic charged up, so one thing I could do is I could actually use Via the Vanguard here, and I could do various things with Via the Vanguard, some kind of charge there, using the Tunic. I think, looking at it now, I don't think that I actually do this in the game, but looking at it now, I like the option of using Via the Vanguard to charge with 2 cards, then playing Celestial then using the Snapdragon Scalers to give it go again, and then playing a Celestial Cataclysm to come in for 8, and then following that up with Raydn for another 4. So that would be another high damage turn. I think that would be a 16 damage turn, more if he blocks with any attacks. But I think I don't end up doing that. I think I end up wanting to preserve Soul a little more, so if I recall correctly, I don't use the Celestial Cataclysm. I think I actually charge with it, though I could be wrong. I think I end up pitching the Sink Below to play the V. I charge with the Cataclysm, and then I'm going to come in with the Raydn and the Engulfing Light. And the reason that I did it like this is to maintain my Fyendal Spring Tunic charge. Fyendal Spring Tunic is, in my opinion, a really core card for Sir Boltyn. It can really help you get big plays. By the most common way that I use it is by using it to pay for Via the Vanguard or to pay for Take Flight. But in some other situations, it can be good, even if you're pitching, you might have something else you want to do. My opponent doesn't block. I use Boltyn's ability. He takes 4. I'm then going to swing in with Raydn. He blocks for 1 and takes 4, and then I'm going to give that go again as well, and come in with the Engulfing Light, which does hit and goes to Soul. So right now it's looking like I am far ahead. It is 33-6, but here's the thing. My opponent is running a powerful Saber combo deck, and we're about to see the Saber combo in action. I believe it's this turn, though I could be wrong. My opponent comes in with a basic charge attack. That's going to be a Express Lightning, and then he does give it go again, and here we go with the combo. So the way this combo works is you can essentially you're going to use this card Lumina Ascension, which is going to allow for multiple swings, and it is going to allow you also to potentially send stuff to Soul on hit. So as we can see here, my opponent is using all his items here, or all his equipment here, and that's really what this deck is built to do. He goes for the Gallantry Gold into the Courage of Bladehold into 2 Lumina Ascensions. So the way this works, I'm just going to pause it for a moment. Gallantry Gold, he can spend 1 to give all his weapon attacks +1 this turn, so he does that. Then Courage of Bladehold, that's going to be giving his that's going to be making it so that all his sword attacks are free this turn. And then he's going to be throwing out these Saber attacks with 2 Lumina Ascensions. So each Lumina Ascension gives your weapon attacks +1 this turn. If you've charged, it lets you swing an additional time with each weapon you control. And it also means that on hit, you flip over your top card, and if it is a light card, it goes to Soul, and you heal 1 life. So even though my opponent is wildly behind, this turn is going to really allow him to do some major damage, and his hope at least is that it's going to reverse the course of the game and allow him to take the lead. So let's see just what it does for him. Because he's played 2 Lumina Ascensions, each of these Sabers is going to be able to swing 3 times. They also get +2, so that's Strength 4 base, +1 from the Gallantry Gold. So he has Strength 5 Sabers. Each Saber can swing 3 times. So that's going, and the swings are also free thanks to the Courage of Bladehold. So that actually does mean this is going to be extremely powerful. He's going to have the he's going to have the Strength 5 Sabers, and he's going to have 6 attacks between the 2 of them. So that's 30 damage right there, and that's a lot of damage. And we're going to see how I respond to it. So here we go. First Saber swing coming in. I'm just going to eat it. So my opponent also gets 2 Lumina triggers because both of those are active, so he hits twice, and that is going to be healing 2 life. Then he's going to do a second swing with that Saber. Gives it go again. This time only 1 of his Lumina triggers hits, so he's just going to gain 1 life. Then he does a third swing with that Saber. And the interesting thing to know about this is that if you block the Sabers with an attack, based on their card text, they get +1 until the end of the turn. So if you're getting attacked by these Sabers, you only want to block on the last attack each Saber is making if you're going to block with an attack action, because otherwise you make their combo even stronger. So I end up taking that hit as well. And so then we're going to see him healing twice. Then he's coming in with his second Saber for its first attack. I believe I'm just going to take this damage. So what I'm doing here is I am trying to intentionally get below him so that I can block for 2 with my Arcanite Skullcap, which I have now achieved as my opponent has put himself in a very strong position. The other unfortunate thing about this is if you look at my hand, my next turn is actually very poor. However, now that I have this, I am able to stop that attack from hitting, blocking 3 with my own copy of Lumina Ascension, plus another 2 with the Arcanite Skullcap. And he's going to come in for 1 more attack here. This is not lethal, and I end up deciding I'm going to take the damage, dropping me to 3 life here. I could have blocked with, I could have tried to block, but if I blocked with 2 attacks, he would get +2, and he would still hit me for 1, still get his on hit. So I end up deciding I'm going to take it a little easier here, but I am definitely in a tough spot with him having done his combo. He's now totally in a position to try and reverse the game, and we'll see what I have. I'm going to come in with an Illuminate, coming in for 4 damage. If this hits, it'll go to Soul. Unfortunately, I do have a weak hand here. I really wish that I had a charge card, but I do not have one. That's one of the weaknesses of Boltyn. If you don't have a card that can charge, you sometimes get stuck with these hands that just aren't really doing that much. So in this case, it's going to be Illuminate coming in for 4, and I do think that there's a good chance I'm going to use the Snapdragon Scalers and then use the Tunic to come in with the Battlefield Blitz for 5 as well, just trying to intensify the pressure on him. That's not threatening lethal, but it does mean hopefully he'll have to either block or get pretty low. One of the things about Boltyn is that he really does want to retain a high number of cards in hand. I don't end up actually going for the snaps here. I'm just going to arsenal the Plunder Run, and I now have I have some really powerful options in hand if I had a charge card, which I don't, but I do have that Plunder Run, which I'm going to be able to use to hopefully do some damage. Now my opponent uses his Energy Potion here, and he goes for the classic Take Flight with a charge. So one of the downsides of the Saber deck is that after you've done your big combo, the deck becomes significantly weaker. However, in this situation, I am still in a relatively tough spot. So I should be taking, I think... Yeah, so it's a blue Take Flight, which I blocked with 1 card, so that is going to block it completely. And then my opponent does come in with a Command and Conquer. This is 6, but if I block with an attack, it's going to be 7 because I charge this turn. However, I can block 6 plus the Skull Cap to block all 7 of it. And then on my turn, I'm going to be able to use the Plunder Run that I have in Arsenal and then play the Illuminate in hand. That's still actually a pretty decent turn, so it could be a lot worse. Plunder Run giving me +3, and if it hits, I will draw a card, and then Illuminate coming in for 4, and if it hits, it'll go to Soul. So this is 7. If it hits, I will draw a card, and Illuminate will go to Soul. And I could conceivably use Boltyn's ability for the go again here if it looks like the attack is going to hit, and then if I draw something that I can attack with immediately, I'll be able to throw out an additional attack, which could be actually quite relevant here. The problem is, it's kind of like Chain. You don't actually know what you're going to get on these draws if you're doing something like this, so sometimes you might end up sort of gambling on getting a certain result, and you have to decide whether or not you want to use the go again, not knowing whether or not you're going to draw a relevant card. Like maybe I draw something that I can't play. So I'm thinking about it. I believe I use it here, but I could be wrong. It's been a while since I played this game. This was in August. But anyway, I'm coming in for 7. If it hits, I'll draw a card and send Illuminate to Soul. My opponent's on 10 life. The dream for me is that so my opponent doesn't block. I use the Boltyn ability for go again, and then I draw another card that can be a solid attack here. Maybe with the Tunic or maybe without the Tunic, and then that puts a bunch of block pressure on my opponent because he is no longer in a place where he has any equipment to defend with at all. Now, I'm not in much better of a state. I can block for 1 with my Tunic when the time comes and 1 with my Bracers, but I do still have my Snapdragon Scalers as well. So my opponent blocks for 3 here, or defends for 3. I was hearing recently that it's officially called defend and not block. I'm going to start trying to use the right terminology, but bear with me, guys, because I do think it'll be a little difficult for me to adapt. It is a defense for 3 here from the opponent. And he may be thinking about whether to add more. I end up not going for the gamble, which is good because I got an attack reaction that I could not have played, so it would have depleted my soul unnecessarily. In retrospect, though, I think it probably would have been good in expectation to go for the gamble there, but we'll see. My opponent pitches for the basic Take Flight with a charge. I think that was a yellow Take Flight there. So coming in for a 3 go again, he does have a charge, so if I block with an attack, it will get +1, and then there is going to be a risk here also of him coming in with another Saber swing because he does have a resource floating, so that would be 2 + 2 if blocked by an attack. So he is threatening lethal here, and I gotta think about how I want to defend against it. I could block with the Plunder Run that I have in hand, which wouldn't give him any bonus, and is not a very relevant card right now because the odds of me being able to arsenal that are relatively low at this phase. But we'll see what I do. There is also a risk, because Boltyn is a warrior, that the opponent is going to be playing Steelblade Shunt here. If that's the case, I got to watch out for going down to 1 life, simply because that Steelblade Shunt kill can be a very strong move. I've done that before. If there was the Lucky Gaming TCG big Blitz online event, the one that occurred shortly after Monarch released, I think, if I recall correctly, I actually won the final of that game with a Steel Blade Shunt to kill my opponent who was on 1 life. So that's a play that I'm pretty familiar with and want to watch out for from this opponent. This is a yellow Take Flight coming in for 3. I block for 2 with the Plunder Run, and then he comes in with a Saber swing. I'm looking at his discard pile here. I'm not entirely sure what I'm searching for. Maybe just trying to figure out what the situation is. Now, one little tip here is that as I'm demonstrating, if you're looking to see how many cards someone's used up for Boltyn, you have to look not just at their discard pile, but also their banish and also their soul. So my opponent actually has 10 cards in soul. So I'm looking at the discard pile, the banish, and the soul to try to see what's left in the deck. All right, so here is the Cintari Saber coming in. This is only strength 2, but if I block with an attack, it gets +1. Then it also gets +1 from Boltyn's ability, so it would actually get +2 if blocked by an attack, making a attack not a very good option for defense here. I think what I end up doing is using armor and then trying to make an attack of my own on my turn. I do still have 2 points of armor here. 1 from the bracers and 1 from the old tunic. I end up deciding I'm going to drop to 1 life. I think what I was doing when I was looking at the discards there was trying to see if my opponent was playing Steel Blade Shunt. We've seen a huge amount of his deck between the mills and all that, and I think I concluded he was likely not playing it, though I could be wrong. Bolt of Courage coming in here. So this is a yellow Bolt of Courage coming in for 2, +1 if it's blocked by an attack. And if it hits, it will draw me a card. I did charge. My opponent blocks for 2 with a Lumina Ascension. I think I used my attack reaction here. That's right. I have a Courageous Steel Hand, which is if you've charged this turn, target attack gets +3. That sends it up to 5. Then because it's above its base strength, I use Boltyn's ability for Go Again. Then it hits, allowing me to draw a card. And I'm going to be able to throw out mini attacks this turn, thanks to still having my Snapdragon Scalers. I have this Engulfing Light and this copy of Snatch. I can attack with both of those. And I can also attack with Raydn as well, though I do need to be a little cautious in case we do have that. Steel Blade Shunt. So what I do here is I throw out a swing with Snatch first. And the reason I'm doing that is this is coming in for strength 4, and if I hit, it will draw a card. I'm thinking that this is a card that he wants to defend against, and if I can get him down to if I can get him down to 1 card in hand, I know that he won't be able to play a Steel Blade Shunt even if he has it. Debatably, on the previous turn, it's possible I should have blocked with Tunic as well to keep me on 2 HP, which would be much safer. There is a risk of a double shunt, but it seems pretty unlikely. Snatch is a very basic attack here. If this hits, draw a card, coming in for 4 damage. And, you know, just putting the pressure on here. It's going to be difficult for him to block. He doesn't have a card in. He doesn't have any armor left. If he does have a defense reaction in hand, that would be very handy, but I'm not sure if he has any more. I know that he was playing a few Sink Belows earlier. He's thinking about his options. The cool thing about this is, regardless of what he does, he goes for the double block, so he blocks for 6. And then I believe I'm going to use, so I used Boltyn's ability for the Go Again. I don't have to use Snaps because he blocked with an attack, giving me +1. I'm then going to throw a Raydn swing because I know that he doesn't have the ability to play a Steel Blade Shunt, even if he has it in hand. So, Raydn coming in for 3. I use this for Go Again, and then a Engulfing Light coming in for 3. If it hits, go to Soul. It does get +1 if blocked by an attack. My opponent's last card to defend with is an attack, so he blocks with it. I get the +1, and that deals the 1 damage that I need to close out the game. So close game there, and I think it kind of shows some of the strengths that both of these decks have, with the Raydn deck being more aggressive and consistent generally, but the Sabers deck being able to exert huge pressure on that giant turn with the double Lumina Ascension combo, but then falling down a little bit afterwards once the combo is no longer available. The the Sabers deck gets significantly weaker, and he wasn't quite able to finish the game, even though he came close. One other note on this combo deck is that you can try to avoid doing your combo until you have 3 Lumina Ascensions. And the way this works is you either have Lumina Ascension or Beacon of Victory. Beacon of Victory you can use to search up a Lumina Ascension. But if you have 2 of those, you can do the version of the combo that we saw here. And if you have 3 of those, you can do a triple combo. The triple combo against a lot of decks is more or less going to win the game immediately, because at that point, if you're hitting Gallantry Gold as well as 3 Luminas, each of those Sabers is going to be making, it's actually going to be making 4 attacks at strength 6. So that's going to be more than 40 overall damage, probably more than 50 overall damage, depending on what the initial card is that you played, because you at that point have 8 Saber attacks, each for 6, so that's 48, plus whatever initial charge card that you played, which has a pretty good chance of taking you above 50 total damage. So that's an extremely dangerous combo. The problem is that it takes a long time to set up. I was playing a version of the combo deck that actually had Whisper of the Oracle to opt and dig for the combo more quickly, and I was finding that you're not reliably doing a triple combo until like turn 8, and 8 turns. 8 was also like average. Sometimes it would be longer than that, and it wouldn't be shorter than that all that often. And the thing about taking, and to be fair, I didn't test this 200 times or whatever, so this is not like super scientific, but turn 8, you know, a lot of the high pressure decks, like a aggressive chain deck or something like that, is going to kill you before turn 8. You don't have 8 turns. Even if you're defending, playing defense reactions, doing all that type of stuff, you don't have 8 turns. So as a result of that, this Saber combo deck often ends up going and doing the combo when you only have 2 Luminas rather than 3 available, and that does make your combo less likely to close out the game completely. But as we saw here, it can still be a huge reversal of fortune. It can take you from even a major disadvantage to suddenly being well ahead on life. When you do it, it also heals you most of the time, which means that you're going to be gaining life, so you can actually go pretty far down and still do this and be in a decent spot. So as we saw here, it can generate a huge reversal in the game. However, the disadvantage to doing the double combo instead of the triple combo is that you then have to try to close it out with a less efficient deck in terms of just generating damage and aggression compared to the Raydn version of the deck. Now, one thing that you can do that helps is if you do happen to have a Beacon of Victory left over after you do the combo, you often have a ton of cards in Soul, and that becomes a reaction that can be like, you know, banish 10 cards in Soul for plus 10, which can close the game quite easily. I believe in this game, my opponent played and or blocked with and or banished all and or sent to Soul all 3 of his Beacon of Victory, so I wasn't as worried about that, but I could be wrong. Anyway, that was I think an interesting game in order to kind of show the difference between these 2 different styles of Boltyn build. And, you know, neither of these, I'm not saying that either of us have figured out the exact perfect, most optimal way to run this this combination. Either of these combinations, really. I know my current Raydn deck has definitely changed some of the cards from this version, and I'm not sure if my opponent's running different stuff these days for the Saber combo, but I think it's at least conceivable that there would be some different options in there. So I'm not saying that these are the best decks ever. However, this is, I think, a interesting overview of the 2 different Boltyn decks and kind of pitting them against each other. Once again, for those of you who are following the Road to Nationals season, we have seen very strong results from Boltyn in Road to Nationals, and the really interesting thing about that also is that we've actually seen successful results from 3 different archetypes. So one of them is Raydn, one of them is Sabers. Those are the 2 that I was just discussing. But actually, the 3rd archetype is a hybrid deck that runs both Raydn and Sabers. And the way that the hybrid deck works is you essentially sideboard between Raydn and Sabers based on what hero your opponent is running. And this also has the capability of kind of catching an opponent by surprise and having them sideboard wrong. So Raydn is like a racing aggressive deck, whereas the Sabers are a setup combo deck. And so maybe someone is going to be like, oh, you know, this guy's playing Boltyn, I bet he's on Raydn, I got to set up to race him. But then you set up with a very defensive build that's going for the Saber combo and really take him by surprise. Or maybe it's the other way around. This person thinks, okay, this guy's going for the combo, you know, we're gonna have a game where I'm gonna get a chance to set up these bigger turns and try to use those to break through his defenses, and then instead you're playing an aggressive Raydn build. I believe the Saber combo version is the one that has had the most success in terms of event wins, but it's pretty close. So currently I have 16 Road to Nationals wins from Boltyn, and I believe that 5 of those are with Raydn only. And then we have 2 of those with decks that have both, and then we have 9 of those with decks that are running the Sabers only. So all 3 versions of Boltyn have put up some successes. Sabers is probably the most effective in competitive play right now, or at least has the most event results. I personally think Raydn is actually stronger than Sabers. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but to me Sabers seems like it has more potential problems than Raydn does, but of course, if you can't decide, you could always run both. And lastly, just want to say it, I said it earlier in the stream, but just to say it again, if you are in continental Europe, Boltyn is actually the most successful hero in Road to Nationals for Continental Europe. He has the most event wins. I believe Chain has more top 8s than him, but Boltyn is actually the one with the most event wins in that meta, which I thought was interesting. That's not to say that his success has only been in Europe. We've also seen some Boltyn event winners in the U.S. and maybe other regions too. I haven't looked in that in great detail, but in Europe, he's giving an unusually strong performance. All right, I think I'm actually gonna close down the stream with that, guys. Just a shorter stream today, just a Boltyn highlight with both the Raydn more aggressive and the Sabers more of a setup decks in play. So I'll be coming back later with some more Flesh and Blood content. I have several articles written up over at my blog at towernumber9.com if you're interested in checking that out. If you go to that blog site, towernumber9.com, and you click on the Fab event results tracker link under the logo at the top of the site, there is a link to the spreadsheet that I've been maintaining tracking the results of different Road to Nationals events, and that should be pretty interesting as well if you're interested in those sorts of statistics and seeing what's doing well. Little spoiler alert: Chain's doing pretty well, and Prism is doing pretty poorly. But yeah, so that's going to do it for this stream, guys. Thanks to you all for watching, and we'll be back later with some more Flesh and Blood content, including, get hyped for this, on the 8th. That's 4 days from now, and this is the 8th Pacific time in the U.S. Just to be clear, it's going to be U.S. Pacific on the 8th, I believe. I will be showing a preview card. LSS has been kind enough to send me a spoiler card from Tales of Aria, and I will be showing that on stream. So it's going to be live on stream. I looked at the card a little bit. I saw a few details of it. I was mostly just checking the art to make sure that it's not like gory or like, I don't know, suggestive or like whatever. Like just trying to make sure that it's something that's stream appropriate, because there's a few cards from this game that I'm not incredibly comfortable showing on stream. But this one, I believe, will be stream appropriate, and I will be showing it on the 8th of September, U.S. Pacific, specific time to be announced. But I'm going to be doing more or less a live reaction to that card. I've seen a little bit of the detail of it, but I have not seen the full specifics, and it's going to be interesting to check that out and talk about it with the chat. So stay tuned for that. That will be on the 8th of September. Still trying to figure out exactly what the time is. I will update that later. But yeah. Until next time, guys, thanks again for watching, and I will catch you all later. Someone whose name I may mispronounce, Ara Lewin Ranger 01, says, "You earned that card, man. You're a great player." Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. I will say I think there's definitely some people in the game that are better than me. But thank you for the support. All right, that's going to do it, guys. Thanks again for watching. Shout out to Nimpo and Parsifal97 for following between the last stream and this one. And we'll be back later with some more Flesh and Blood content. I will catch you guys later.